The 1919 Paris peace talks continued. The victors bargaining at tables. Are the victors proudly posing? The map shows the area rightfully claimed in February 1919 by Armenians at the Paris Peace Conference by Aronian and Hattisian, who just a few months ago, on September the 6th, 1918, had visited Sultan Vahdettin to express gratitude for his protection. Weren't all the people massacred? Who was going to fill this huge area? Ottoman's concept of justice and 144 dignitaries interned in Malta for trials. November 1918. The Allied armies occupy Istanbul and conform ceasefire. Immediately they search all archives for leads, including the US and UK's. The beaten Turks try to set a neutral court and ask Holland, Denmark, Spain, Sweden and possibly Switzerland on the 13th of February 1919 to provide 2 witness judges each. Istanbul Commander-Governor Calthorpe is on the right. Spain asks Britain what to reply, and a surprised Britain says that they will trial themselves to be guilty in Malta. All 4 countries turn down in writing the invitation of the Ottoman government, but nowadays they seem to all have been experts on the genocide issue when they did not want to be a witness at the time. Surprisingly, no present Turkish authority reminds of this paradox to those countries or parliaments. Despite France's objection, after March 1919, British interned 144 Ottoman dignitaries and commanders in Malta for over 2 years, searching for evidence to indict them. The Blue Book and other fake documents were disregarded. With nothing found anywhere, the suspects were quietly returned to Istanbul without a single indictment. To save face, British said that they released the dignitaries in exchange for a few British officers who were taken hostage by Mustafa Kemal when Britain themselves did the arrests. Most of those exiles went to Ankara and joined Mustafa Kemal's national resistance, which was just emerging. Note: the Ottomans' note verbal and Spain's reply is on the left. 15th of May 1919. Greeks land in Izmir. The Allied countries cheat on Italy and Paris and let the Greeks do the occupation which was promised to the Italians. Note: on the picture above, who put the USA's supposedly neutral flag amongst the victors' flags? 19th of May 1919. Upon complaints by Armenians in the Sivas area, Mustafa Kemal is sent as General Inspector to investigate. He cabled to Istanbul that the Armenian citizens are at their works in comfort. There are no incidents. Reminder: after the Mudros ceasefire, many Armenians had returned. General Harbord's report, the US Senate 266, the 13th of April 1920. Allies asked the USA to take Armenia under mandate. The Senate and President sent General Harbord with a delegation to the area to study and report in the summer of 1919. The delegation visits Istanbul, Ankara. Harbord talks to Mustafa Kemal in Sivas for 3 hours, then returns to Istanbul via Tbilisi and Batum after extensive surveys. The report also refers to provocations by British on the Armenians to induce them to fight, and mentions Muslim losses as well. Harbord thanks the Turks and recommends that the USA stay away from this adventure given the needed manpower and the high costs. 1915 Adapazakhi. At the first stage, Armenians in the war zones were relocated. Yet since there were fifth column activities in some western cities, suspected families too were subjected to relocation. The photo shows bombs and weapons found at Adapazakhi. US Archives number 184-021-175. This report prepared by Captain Emory Niles and Mr. Arthur Sutherland, who travelled the Erzurum Van Bitlis area in July-August 1919 by horse and carriage for 30 days, covering 1,426 kilometres, is dated 16th of August 1919, penned in Istanbul and found by Professor Justin McCarthy in 1990. The following excerpts. At first we were most incredulous of the stories told, but the unanimity of the testimony of all witnesses, and strongest of all, material evidence on the ground itself, have convinced us of the general truth of the facts that first, Armenians massacred Muslims on a large scale with many refinements of cruelty, and second, that Armenians are responsible for most of the destruction done to towns and villages. At this period, bands of Armenian irregulars roamed the country, pillaging and murdering the Muslim civilian population. The country was completely ruined. The question: is the public aware of this report? 10th of August 1920, the Sèvres Peace Treaty. The puppet Ottoman government under occupation signs the peace treaty, which was delayed because of the portion bargains amongst the victors. Mustafa Kemal rejects the treaty in advance, and the Sultan also does not ratify it. The Armenian Legion soldiers, approximately 4,000, under French uniform, come with the French army. Massacres start, the third betrayal. The people resist by revolt. French casualties increase. The French signed the Frank-Bullion Agreement with the nationalist Ankara government on the 20th of October 1921 and evacuate the area. Turks ask remaining Armenians to stay, but they are scared. They say we will punish Turks by leaving and depriving them from economic life. Civilian deported Armenians that had returned this time go themselves when French armies evacuate the area. Some give this figure as 150,000 persons. A US report cites 300,000. The last group departs by ships from Mersin on January the 10th, 1922. Thousands of immigrants die on the roads because of a long-lasting snowstorm, but of course, all deaths are counted as killed by genocide. Autumn 1920. Karabekir's army counterattacks. Takes back all cities and areas occupied by Armenians, reaching even Tbilisi. Even before the border map is signed by Wilson on November the 27th, 1920, Armenians surrender with the Gumrah Treaty, revoke the Sèvres Treaty, and accept the borders which stand today. Armenia becomes a Soviet republic and is saved from starvation. The treaty is reconfirmed by a second Moscow Treaty and again in 1921 with the Kars Treaty. Armenia now has claims on Turkish lands. Photos of refugees. The top left shows a camp set up by French near Adana. The top right, a Turkish camp. Do you see any fences or sentinels? On the left, a photo showing a welcome band at Aleppo train station for the arriving deportees. Note: these photos are from the archives of the Armenian General Benevolent Union in Cairo. The 24th of July, 1923, Lausanne Peace. The name of Armenia or the Armenians is not mentioned anywhere. The superpowers they trusted and had died for had no need left for them. The gang leaders who brought all the calamities had fled overseas. Other notes. The Armenians, abandoned by the superpowers, this time tried to appeal to İsmet İnönü, the Turkish leader. Mr. Gabriel Nuradigyan, who was the Minister for Foreign Affairs of the Ottomans, this time was begging for the Armenians. İnönü was fed up and refused to receive them, so they were totally lost with no one to care. Other facts. A few Armenians had extended very important aid to Mustafa Kemal during the War of Independence. The affections lasted forever. Brother of the great revolutionary leader, Armen Garo, was shot in his leg on the Eastern Front, likely by a bullet from an Armenian or Russian rifle. Many patriots were given medals. Lausanne Peace Conference, the Turkish delegation all together. Lausanne Peace Conference, delegations posed together after signatures. In other words, aren't these trigger-happy, adventurous fighters who threw their own people into many disasters the true culprits? Armenian villagers, whether they wanted to or not, were obligated to hide and feed these fighters. When the villages were emptied, these gangs dissolved since they no longer had any support. Who was the real commander of the Ottoman army during World War I? The thumb rule is that the Sultan is the very top of everything and hence also the commander-in-chief. Everyone believed that all power was shared by the triumvirate of Talat, Enver and Jamal Pasha. Whereas, before World War I started, the Grand Vizier Said Halim Pasha and the German ambassador Wangenheim had made a secret written agreement, and the authority of commander-in-chief was given to German General Liman von Sanders. Some of the actors who made history: Lord Bryce, head of Wellington Propaganda House, ex-British ambassador in Washington, became close friends with US Ambassador Morgenthau on a trip to Egypt and Palestine, who sent him copies of the missionary reports to be used as raw material by Arnold J. Toynbee in his penning of The Blue Book and Other Fabrications. Russian Tsar Nicholas II. He was promised the Straits by Britain and France in the portioning of the Ottomans. The May 1917 Communist Revolution changed everything. He was dethroned and killed with his royal family. Lloyd George, Britain's PM, chief actor and stage director, made various unkept promises to Armenians who fought in Turkey, Palestine, and even Verdun for allies. After the Treaty of Versailles, the large British army was let to go home because the treasury was emptied and the people had enough of war. Despite his performance, he was not re-elected. Important Armenian revolutionary leaders: Hovhannes Katchaznuni, 1868-1938, architect, PM in 1918 to 1919. After Sovietizing in 1921, he made a written confession in the 1923 Bucharest Dashnak Congress, admitting mistakes and saying, "Dashnak Party has nothing else to do but close." Alexander Katsisian, 1874-1945, PM of the Dashnakist Armenian Republic, August 1919 to May 1920. He signed the Batum and Alexandropol peace treaties, then went to Germany. When Nazis came into power, he took refuge in Portugal. Boghos Nubar Pasha, 1851-1930, son of the Vizier Nubar of Egypt, was educated in France, banker and engineer. Head of the Armenian delegation to 1919 Paris Peace Conference. His letter of the 3rd of December 1918 to the French government confessed that Armenians are rebels de facto. Fridtjof Nansen, League of Nations General Secretary. From Gazette of September 21, 1929. Western powers had said to the Armenians, "If you fight with us against the Turks, we promise to give you a national home and independence." The Armenians fought. 200,000 volunteers sacrificed their lives, but when peace was signed, the given promises were forgotten. Vahan Kardashian, graduate of Robert College, lawyer from Yale University, employed by Turks in Washington, but kicked out on espionage. Next to him, the US Berlin ambassador Gerard. Together they set up the ACIA lobbying group and guided US Senate and Congress for anti-Turkish actions. Admiral Mark Bristol, US Commissioner sent to Istanbul in 1919 after the Mudros ceasefire. He was not biased, and with his neutral reports, he resisted prejudiced missionary reports. US Ambassador Henry J. Morgenthau, and few facts. He served between November 1913 and February 1916 in Istanbul. He was an ardent Zionist and multi-faced. He travelled only once in early 1914 to Egypt and Palestine, where he became friends with Lord Bryce. He never left Istanbul, did not even visit Hagia Sophia or meet Christian patriarchs. He was briefed by his dragoman Shamovian and secretary Andonian. On the right corner, Grand Rabbi Nahum Effendi was frequently together and told him the difference between Ashkenazi and Sephardic Jews. Nahum was a patriot. He was to be made ambassador in Washington. He was a great help to the Turkish delegation at Lausanne Conference. Morgenthau ordered a book to the Pulitzer Prize award winner Bertrand J. Hendricks to damn the Turks to form humane causes for Wilson to enter World War I. The book, Ambassador Morgenthau's Story, was a hit, had more than 40 reprints, sells in English, Turkish in bookstores, and is the main written source to damn Turks. Yet the book contradicts his own written memoirs and exhibits what a tall distorter and liar he was. Refutation of population and death figures. The 2 pages on the left are from the memorandum given by the Armenian delegation at the Lausanne Peace Conference on the 2nd of February 1923, and writes that 760,000 Armenians are alive, 345,000 Caucasus, 95,000 Syria, 50,000 Persia, 120,000 Bulgaria, 110,000 orphans in Turkey. The other US document, dated the 8th of January 1958, signed by Mr. Anderson, indicates that the total Armenian population in the world in November 1922 is 3,004,000, and 281,000 of this number live in Turkey, whilst there is another lot, 817,873 refugee. Hence we have to assume that if the total population in 1914 was 1.3 or 1.4 million, deaths caused by all reasons, including fights, may exceed 500,000, which is confirmed by Professor Justin McCarthy as 580,000. My estimate is around 560,000, including 195,000 who starved in Armenia between 1918 and 1920 under their own government. Distorted and contradicting figures on the Armenian population. The table on the left is given in full detail in my books. I credit the census by Armenian French Land Distribution Committee as 1,280,000. Above, a survey made by Britain in 1892. They said that there are 666,000 Armenians in the 6 provinces. Armenians claim that Hitler mentioned their massacres in his speech before attacking Poland. This is a lie. On the left, Armenian Nazi newspaper of February 1945, message of victory by Hitler. Next, the butcher General Dro, head of the Armenian Nazi Legion army of 22,000, 4,800 special SS troops. Since he knew the Russian language well and military tactics also, he was consulted by Hitler frequently. He was accepted in the USA as a hero. More documents and details on Hitler's speech forgery. The document is supposed to be the original paper of Hitler's speech. It is typed on a typewriter without a German keyboard. It is written on ordinary unheaded paper with many punctuation mistakes. A section is cut by scissors. This document was rejected when given to the Nuremberg Tribunal, but hard-working Armenian lobbyists succeeded in putting it on the wall of the Holocaust Museum in Washington, this alleged quote of Hitler. The museum management argued when inserting this in the Holocaust of the Jews, but pressure was high. In 2002, the museum added the sentence, according to the report received by Associated Press reporter Mr. Lochner, and freed themselves from ethical rules. Left. Cover of a magazine for the forgotten Armenian Legion. Special soldier nameplates made for the Armenians. When World War I ended, these 22,000 Nazi Armenian soldiers became innocent displaced persons and were admitted in the USA with special affidavits and tariffs. Even criminal General Dro, wanted by the Russians, was admitted. What were Turks doing when Armenian Legion was picking up Jews? Map showing Turkish consulates and embassies opened during World War II. Left. Consul General of Rhodes, Selahattin Ülkümen, with Yad Vashem prize given by Israel for his saving hundreds of Jews and sending them via Turkey to Palestine. Left. An identification document for Turkish citizenship of Jews who lived in Turkey before moving to France. Ambassador Berhik Erkrin at Vichy's France, ex-colonel and Atatürk's friend. He sent tens of thousands of Jews by train via Turkey to Palestine. He had both the Iron Cross and Légion d'honneur medals and was untouchable. UCLA, a university of falsifiers. In 2005, an attentive friend visiting the USA saw the poster Face of Denial showing Atatürk posing next to a corpse. He took a picture and showed this nonsense to Professor T. Ataov, who had previously found that the picture of heaps of skulls of Armenians was originally an old painting made by Russian painter Vereshchagin to show the calamities of the Prussian War. Ataov soon discovered that this was a postcard sent by Atatürk to his wife, and there were puppies and no corpse. This academic charlatanism was published in the Turkish newspapers and possibly was heard by the UCLA, but no one offered any excuse. The apologetic Turkish intelligentsia too kept silent. More on doctored photographs. Left. Actual photo of A. Wengler showing the corpse doctored on Atatürk's postcard. Left. Photo from Donald Bloxham's book, published by Oxford University Press, showing an Ottoman clerk throwing bread to Armenians as if they were dogs. Professor J. Salt, Bilkent University, found out through a photography lab that this was a picture doctored by several other photographs. Oxford Press then advised of this forgery and said that such tricks were frequent. Another Armin Wengler photo showing two starving boys. The woman behind has a wristwatch. A treasure in those days also looks like the dress of a missionary woman. Another posed photo with the watch forgotten. The photos indicate Armenian officer cadets in military academy. On the right, Dr. Artvin Tevetslian, headmaster of the Army Health Service. Swedish Army officer H.D. Pravits travelled the area of the deportees on horse with a friend for about a month. When he was back, he saw anti-Turk missionary articles in the Swedish magazines and wrote an article on the 23rd of April 1917 in Dagligt Allehanda that he saw plenty of misery and hunger, but no floating corpses on the Euphrates River or massacres. The picture below shows two stellar stones from Urartu times, used for carving crosses on them and turning them into Christian monuments. Fiegler calls this strange mentality mythomania. Edict of Sultan Fatih, the Conqueror, given to the Genovese people living in Galatia who did not resist Turks and even assisted. This edict guaranteed all trade, living, praying, education, etc. freedoms which may exceed the Helsinki Human Rights Declaration. The English and Turkish translations of this edict are given in full in my books. The original edict is written in the Greek language and stands in the British Museum. Apparently the countries speaking of freedom of religion and/or Turks are unaware of this very old document. Almost all terms of this edict were followed in the capitulatory rights granted by the Ottoman Empire. Writing or speaking these facts does not serve unless you have a strong voice in the TV media or press. Murad Topalyan, chairman of ANCA, lobbyist terrorist. He could freely enter the White House, sitting at a table with Clinton, just one chair away. He was sentenced to 36 months imprisonment, but was released shortly and returned back as a Dashkanist hero. Newspaper clips from foreign papers showing victims of Armenian terror. Mr. Apologists, of course, do not see or speak of these murders of 42 Turkish diplomats, but frequently demonstrate on the streets only for the murder of Hrant Dink by a fanatic. Erich Fiegler, Austrian historian. When his Turkish friend, attaché in Vienna, was shot by ASALA, he took interest and wrote 2 excellent books. One is translated in Turkish. The US Medicare fraud. An Armenian immigrant gangs swindled US Medicare for $36 million by fabricated clinics, prescriptions, etc., and finally robbed the state which gave shelter to them. This is no different than robbing your host, who took you into his house. With so many tall tales, Pinocchio's nose lost its significance. The book cover of a devoted Christian Judge Samuel Weems, who took interest studying the murders and wrote an excellent book, The Secrets of a Christian Terrorist State, Armenia. Weems provided all details with evidence, but the American media would not even read what their own judge revealed, and no one could refute it. Colonel Maqsood Shaikh, Pakistan, was also a scholar of literature and history. He spoke Urdu, English and Turkish perfectly. He got interested in the murders and wrote a book in Pakistan named Lies, Lies and More Lies. But who cares about the truth or defends it? Another document forgery. Armenians had produced some documents alleged to be a confession of a Turkish official, Naim Bey. However, when facts were inquired, it seems that no one knew Naim Bey. The dates and numbers of the cables and documents or names of the signatories did not match. The forgery is so clear that Armenians make no further reference to it.